शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नमुपशान्तये दक्षिणामूर्तिसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गणपति बप्पा जय श्री राम। So I remember a few years back when I was telling my son Ramayana. This must have been when my son must have been about 5-7 years, so 16 years. So I was telling him certain things on Vasishtha's story on Kamadhenu. You know how Vishwamitra tries to take it, and then how Vasishtha and Vishwamitra have a small war on that. So he asked me, do we have such cows like Kamadhenu? You know, when we ask anything, Kamadhenu gives us. That's how it is, right? Or Kalpavriksha, you know, a tree that you can ask anything and it will give you. Or Chintamani, which will remove all our worries. So unfortunately, all these three have been kept by the Devas. Nothing has been given to the humans, right? We are all lesser mortals. The Devas have kept all the good things with them, and only the bad things come to Bhulok. So he was asking whether there is anything like that exists on Bhulok. And I at that point of time heard a pravachan, and they said that what is equivalent to Kalpavriksha, equivalent to Chintamani, and equivalent to Kamadhenu, which means whatever we ask will be given to us. There is a gift of that kind that exists on Bhulok, and that apparently is Sundarakand. So if you listen to Sundarakand, apparently you ask for anything in your mind and then you listen to Sundarakand, it seems that has the ability to give whatever you ask for. Okay, that is the power of Sundarakand. We had covered the reason why Valmiki kept the name Sundarakand as Sundarakand. The others have more contextual, you know. The Balakand, the Ayodhya Kand, the Kishkinda Kand, Aranya Kand, Yuddha Kand, they're all contextual, we know what it means. Sundarakand, just by name we don't know what it really means, and we had covered this as a small story as to why it represents Hanuman. I was listening to one of the pravachan by Dushyant Sridhar last week, and he also happened to mention a very beautiful thing. It seems it's a very unique name. Technically, Balakand, when Rama was born, when Sita was born, when Rama and Sita get married, should have been Sundarkand. Right? It is the most beautiful, auspicious thing to happen. Okay, if that's not as Sundar, maybe the 12 years that they spent in Ayodhya Kand together. See, Rama and Sita, the 12 years that they spent as youngsters, right? No responsibility of running a kingdom. Youngsters, lovebirds, you know, taking care of each other. That should have been Sundarkand. That wasn't. Okay. You come to Ayodhya Kand, you come to Yuddha Kand. After war, they reunite. There is coronation that happens. It's such a beautiful ending to Ramayana. That also doesn't happen to be Sundarkand. What turns out to be Sundarkand, the most beautiful Kand, is the time when Rama and Sita are separated. Rama is in sorrow, Sita is crying somewhere, and both are not happy, and yet that Kand becomes a Sundarkand. It is because of Hanuman, right? That's because we knew why that name was given as Sundarkand. I thought I'll just cover. It's unique. When Rama is in full sorrow, and so is Sita, and yet that Kand gets called as the most beautiful Kand. So we had covered the beginning, the first part of the Sundarkand, where they reach the beach at Tirukkurungudi. That's the name of the town. Okay, it still exists. There's a Mahendragiri Parvat. Okay, Mahendragiri Parvat is a common name. Okay, and that's a name which is available on geography. If you go out to Google, there will be quite a few Mahendragiris that are available in India. One of them happens to be in a place called Tirukkurungudi, which is in Tamil Nadu. Technically, the point from where Hanuman took his flight is different from the point where the Rama Setu, the Nala Setu was built. Okay, these two are different points. Hanuman necessarily didn't take flight from that same point. He went a little closer to Lanka. But for building the bridge, we will anyway come to that in detail when we come to Yuddha Kand. Why the point from Rameshwaram was chosen is because geography also helped, okay, to build that particular bridge. We'll come to it because Valmiki himself has spent a lot of shlokas on how there was a natural formation and how that bridge got built. This just for information, the 2 points from where Hanuman took his flight to Lanka and where the entire army crosses are technically a few kilometers away. They are not at the same place. So, of course, Hanuman was not aware of his powers. Jambavan introduces him. Last time somebody also told that he is the original Superman, right? That we all know in our Puranas. Hanuman, after being introduced, is a 180-degree shift. It is the Hanuman that we all love, that we are so much in awe, right? So that Hanuman got introduced to himself. Jambavan had the good fortune of doing that. Hanuman takes 150 feet Bhima Rupa and then has taken his flight. He's just sprung into air like a bolt of lightning in dark clouds, like a bow, like an arrow coming out of Rama's bow, like a golden Garuda. He's just flew. The small monkeys, the small monkeys that Vanara Sena, they are seeing Hanuman grow in size and they are seeing him now about to jump. It's there in Valmiki Ramayana. They see and they all fall backwards because as Hanuman takes his flight, they all fall backwards. What is happening? Suddenly this whole huge entity just taking off. Hanuman now starts off his flight. Now we'll cover the flight and the disturbances that Hanuman faces now as he travels. One thing which I had covered, Hanuman is not jumping. Okay, and this is very important to understand because we now understand why he wasn't jumping. Because when you jump and if there is an obstruction that comes in between, then you will need some solid surface to again do a jump, right? Which is not what happened with Hanuman. Hanuman was flying. He happens to be Vayu's son. So flight was easy for him and hence had the ability to stop mid-air, to shift speed, to move right, to move left. All that ability Hanuman had and no other person could have completed that jump. As he is a few minutes into the flight, there is a sudden first obstruction, turbulence, air turbulence that hits. As he is just in the flight, there is suddenly a mountain from nowhere, from out of nowhere, suddenly a mountain that comes up from the mid of the sea. And this mountain, it's a huge mountain. Hanuman is trying to go left, the mountain shifts left. Hanuman is trying to go to the right, the mountain shifts right. Now Hanuman gets a little irritated. He goes and he just knocks his knuckle on the head of the mountain. He just taps, Marathi, all those who are Maharashtrians here would know it's called as a tapli. Just kind of taps on his head. So that mountain suddenly comes alive and then that mountain says, my name is Mainaka. Okay, children here might feel odd as to how can mountains speak. Our Puranas, mountains can speak, trees can speak, rivers can speak, animals can speak. If Narnia can show all this, then why can't our Puranas, right? So our Puranas have everybody who can speak. Our Puranas, all of them have life. In our Puranas, all of them are equivalent to gods, right? So all these mountains are gods, trees are gods, rivers are gods, sun, moon. So all these apparently inanimate looking objects are also gods because they are a part of the nature. So this mountain suddenly comes and he says, my name is Mainaka. I am indebted to your father. So what had happened is that Indra, those days, apparently mountains had wings and they had the ability to move, fly around. So you can just imagine huge mountains flying around everywhere. It used to be a traffic jam. So Indra suddenly decides that this is too much to handle. So he kind of, out of rage, he starts cutting off the wings of all the mountains. So out of fear of his wings getting cut, Mainaka approaches Vayu, okay, and he says, I don't want my wings to get cut, can you help me? And Vayu takes him under his umbrage and he says, okay, come, I'll help you come out of this problem. Vayu carries this mountain for 3 full days from Himalaya side till south of India, and there that Mainaka mountain goes and hides into the river, into the sea, okay. Even today, a lot of mountains are there under the sea. As geographically, there are a lot of mountains under the sea. There are even volcanoes under the sea, right? So this mountain goes and hides under the sea. That mountain now suddenly springs up saying that I am indebted to your father. Your father had carried me on his shoulder for 3 full days. So I am offering you a 3 days, 2 nights package. Why don't you come and rest on me? right? You need to rest. You can take some break in the journey that you must be coming from a long distance. He doesn't know that Jesus just begun his flight. So he's saying, why don't you come and rest on me? I would want to repay the debt. It's free of cost. You can stay on me, take it easy for a while. Hanuman says, no, that is not possible. I am on an errand. I am on a mission, and I have a mission, a divine mission to do. So taking a rest is not in me. I will not stop. I have to go. Mainaka kind of still insists. So Hanuman comes and tightly embraces, okay, tightly, lovingly, affectionately embraces the mountain, and he says, consider this as my stay with you. Now you have to let me go because I have an urgent work to finish and I cannot take a break because there will be a lot of delay, it has a lot of repercussions. So you need to allow me to carry on with my work, but kindly consider this as my stay with you. Okay. Sundarakand will have a lot of morals coming out. Okay. The amount of morals that Sundarakand will have will be probably far more than entire Ramayana itself. And that is what Hanuman teaches. In every step, Hanuman will end up teaching us how we should be. So if you were to really see what is the kind of challenge that has come, it is a challenge, right? It is an obstruction that Hanuman is facing. But this obstruction is not the kind of troubles in life that we face. This is an obstruction that is out of love, out of affection. So you have to know how to tackle the problem also in a similar manner. So the measure of your tackle, the measure in which you respond to that also needs to be and with love. It cannot be with force. It cannot be, no, I don't want to listen to you, get out of my way, or going and smashing the rocks there. That's not going to be the response. Here the mountain is coming with love. It is an obstruction out of love. So the beautiful examples that I can quickly think of, so we have our children, right? So one of his friends, his exam has got over, okay, a few days before, as compared to your children's exam. Now that guy is free, right? He's done with his exam. Now he wants to party. He calls up our son or daughter and he says, I'm free, why don't we go for a pizza party or for just for a walk or maybe just for a ride or whatever. Now the response that our children need to give is, get lost, I'm not interested in you, I'm studying. That's not the response, right? Why? Because that guy is doing it out of love. He wants to enjoy. There's nothing wrong in enjoying, right? Our own son and daughter will also end up enjoying once their exam gets over. So if he's calling because he's genuinely free. So the response should be, yes, we will do that, but just wait for a couple of days. My exam will also get over, and then we'll go for a party. That should be the response, right? You shouldn't end up breaking your relationship with your friend. Or for example, say, all of us are now working from home, right? So around 1 o'clock, whenever we have lunch, the wife has heated, or maybe just freshly cooked the food. She has heated the food. And she's saying, well, it's all served up on the table. Why don't we come and join for the lunch? Let's have lunch together. And at the same time, we are busy presenting. We are doing some presentation or maybe preparing something for the meeting which is going to happen in the evening. And we are extremely hassled. Now imagine you saying to your wife, no, I'm not going to have lunch with you. I don't have time. It's so wrong, right? She has also prepared with love. She is prepared and needs to be respected, right? So what you should do, what probably one would do is go tightly hug your wife and tell her, okay, I'll come and have lunch. Give me 5 minutes. Let me finish off my work and then I will come and come and sit with you. This is what one should do. I generally give this example to my son. Okay? Maybe I've been telling Ramayana for a very long time, so his reactions are very measured. So I keep telling him, you study. He'll come, he'll hug me and say, Appa, don't worry, I'll surely study, and he'll go and play. So probably he's heard too much of Sundarakand from me, and that's the reason he gives me that reaction. So this is what happens when you have a problem that comes out of love, affection. Your response also has to be with love and affection. Hanuman again resumes his flight. Now again, when he is on his flight, suddenly after an hour or so, then there's suddenly a huge monster, a snake. Okay, a huge snake with a snake kind of a face that comes in his presence. And she introduces herself. She says, I am Surasa, okay? I am Surasa and I am the mother of Nagas. Okay? I am the mother of all the snakes. So this is actually, there is also Kadru, okay? If Kashyapa had many wives, okay? Out of which one is Kadru who also had Nagas and Surasa also had Nagas. and Vinata had Garuda and Aruna. Okay, so that's how the story goes. I'll not get into the details on that front. So she says, I'm Surasa, I am hungry, and I want you to enter my mouth. Specific instructions. Okay, she says, I am Surasa, I am hungry, and I want you to enter my mouth. Hanuman sees her and he says, okay, you want me to enter your mouth, but look at my size. I am about 150 feet in height, and you know, I'm huge, and your mouth seems small. So how will you gobble me up? So she starts opening her mouth. Now she's about 150 feet. Hanuman becomes 200 feet. She opens further her mouth. He becomes 300 feet. She further opens her mouth. Now what has happened is, I don't know if you can see my hand, a snake has eyes here. Okay? When she's opened her mouth, she's become like this, which means her eyes are seeing upwards. She's not able to see what is in the front. Hanuman is actually in the front, right? So her mouth is opened full, wide open like this. And she is now only able to see what is at the top. When Hanuman realizes that she can't anymore see him, he immediately crunches into a couple of feet, goes into her mouth, comes out, and he says, okay, I've gone into your mouth and come out. She closes her mouth and she also blesses him. Surasa, she says, I was sent by Indra to test you. Okay? Now, why is the test? Because they wanted to check whether Hanuman is somebody who can actually end up finishing off the feat that he has been given. Whether he is smart enough to finish off the challenge that has been given to him. And she says, you have passed not only because of your smartness. She goes on to list. She says, only because you have now encountered the second problem, you didn't get frustrated and said, oh, what is this? I mean, as soon as I started my flight, there is a mountain, now suddenly there is a snake which is saying, enter my mouth. I don't want to go anywhere, I'll go back home. He didn't say that. He didn't leave the work halfway. 2, he faced the problem. He didn't avoid. He could have flown from the other side and gone out, right? He's flying at a huge speed. Surasa and all cannot even match that speed. He's flying like a lightning bolt. He didn't avoid the problem. He faced the problem. How did he face? He faced with his smartness, right? With his intelligence. And he was truthful. She said, enter my mouth. He could have gone down to 2 feet and still not enter the mouth and still say, I entered your mouth. She's not going to realize at all, right? She wouldn't realize because her mouth is like wide open. She's seeing somewhere else, tangent. Hanuman actually enters her mouth and comes out. So when you are resolving a problem, so this is a message for us, okay? There are problems which God will put, life will test us, right? Life will test us whether we are capable of taking challenges, whether we are capable of having a family, whether we can do our dharma or no. So life will time and again test us at various points of time. How should be our response? Our response should be with patience. Response should be truthful, with persistence, discretion. Discretion is a better part of valor, which is a very old English adage. Not everything has to be won over with valor or with bravery. There are sometimes you should be discreet. You should be able to know where you should use force and where you need not use force, you can use your brains. Smartness, stoicity and resilience, ability to handle problems and come out of it. God will keep testing us time and again. Our response to that has to be in a manner that we are able to resolve the problem. Now he finishes out with Surasa. Now he is again carrying out with his journey. Now there is a third one that comes in. Now this is a demon. Okay, this demon is a Chaya Grahi. Okay, which means Chaya means shadow. Grahi means somebody who can hold a shadow. As Hanuman is speeding over the sea, his shadow, okay, is falling on the sea. We had told this, right? It is twilight. It's about 5:30 when he's taken his flight, right? So it's just about now probably 6:37. Sun is just about to set, and there's an angular shadow that is falling on the sea. So look at the amount of detailing Ramayana has. Okay, I mean they have recorded the time, they have recorded the geography. Okay, and they have recorded all these details. Okay, so that angular shadow is falling. Hanuman suddenly his speed hits a block. He's not able to fly. And he says, "What is happening, man? I'm not able to fly at my will. He's not able to fly at all." And then he sees that his shadow has been caught. This Chayagrahi demon is called as Sinhaka. Okay, she's a huge demon. Okay, and she comes out and he says, Now she comes with a specific instruction. She says, I am hungry and I want to eat you. Unlike Surasa, where she said, I am hungry and I want you to enter my mouth. This problem, very clearly she says, I am hungry and I am going to eat you. Okay, so this clearly is a problem, and this problem has to be resolved with brute force, right? So he's saying, no, please leave me, I have a job to do, so don't do this. I'll only end up killing you. So she says, let's see who kills whom. You know, I am very hungry and I am going to eat you. So she comes out trying to hit and kill Hanuman. There are two versions to it. One is where Hanuman enters into her mouth and then grows in size and kind of explodes her. The other is where he just hits the hand so hard on her head that she splits into two. Okay. Either ways, she gets killed. So Sinhika gets killed. This is a problem which is generally faced by all of us because of our own karma, and they have to be dealt with brute force. So there could be problems where you are tested, and such problems have to be destroyed. You cannot use love, you cannot use smartness. They have to be killed by brute force, and with the faith in Sri Ram. What Hanuman did, while hitting, he says Jai Sri Ram and hits, right? So that is the reason they say when you solve a problem, always utter the name Jai Sri Ram. So there are these three problems that Hanuman faces. One is love, one is which required smartness, and one which required brute force. The most critical part in this is for us to understand which problem is of what kind and apply the right solution, right? Otherwise, we'll end up applying love for where we need brute force, and we'll apply smartness, unwanted smartness, where we should be actually applying love. So we shouldn't end up doing the wrong thing. We should apply. That is the reason. How do we get that wisdom? This wisdom is not something that we are born with. It's acquired. How do we get that? Basically, Hanumat Smaran and Rama Smaran. We keep doing that. That wisdom automatically will come in us. That is what the moral of the story is. Now, after all these three obstacles, now we would think that he's done with all his obstacles. Well, no. He just is about to starts descending, and now alights himself at the banks on the Lanka side. As he is descending, like it happens, when you travel in night in flight, you reach a metro like Bangalore, Mumbai. There's a lot of glitter. There's a lot of city light, that really sparkles in the night. It's such a beautiful sight. Similarly, as Hanuman is traveling, he can see at a distance there's a beautiful lights, Lanka city, beautiful lights that he sees. Then he gets down. And he thinks to himself. Now he becomes again, he can't now assume a 150 feet tall Hanuman, right? It's visible to everybody. So he becomes a small monkey kind of a thing, and then he starts walking. Now he's thinking to himself, finally I'm done with this flight, which is just 20% of his problem. Now 80% of the problem is still pending. He asks praise for Sri Ram and says, you need to give me enough strength and wisdom to be able to tackle the balance problem also and come out with a solution. As he's walking, he's seeing the glitter that is coming from Lanka, and he's saying, my God, what a city it is. Will Rama really be able to defeat Ravana and get Sita for himself? He says, I hope he is able to do that. That is what Hanuman himself thinks. And as he's going, see, it's very important, okay? Hanuman is not somebody who will shy away from a problem. When we look at a problem, there are two aspects to a problem. One is understanding that there is a problem, and second is putting a solution to the problem. Half of the time we spend our lives in denial that we are in problem, which means we have not even started to identify the problem, forget putting a solution to it. Hanuman immediately puts an end to 50%. He says, yes, there is a problem. Lanka is a powerful city, you have to acknowledge it. You cannot be untruthful about it, you cannot deny that fact that Ravana is powerful. You keep denying it, then you not even cross the first leg. Ravana is a problem, Lanka is a powerful city, yes. Now what do I do? Which means he immediately gets into a solution stage, which means 50% of the problem is resolved. It is only the balance 50 that you need to think about. So now he starts going towards the gate. A small monkey, imagine how cute a monkey looks, right? So there is no threat. The moment you look at a monkey, you don't feel threatened. If you have to see a lion, if you have to see a tiger, you generally feel threatened. When you see a monkey, you might be afraid, but you don't feel threatened about it, right? Small sweet monkey on Lanka banks, it's now trying to go towards the gate. Now as he is going towards the gate, there is an immigration officer, huge demon who's standing there. She's the immigration officer for Lanka. Her name is Lankini. Okay, she guards the city boundary. She's in charge of the city security, the peripherals. So only when she stamps the visa, you are allowed entry. Hanuman has gone without passport or visa, right? So Hanuman is not going to get an entry at all. So she spots Hanuman from a distance and she says, "Hey monkey, what are you doing here?" He's saying, "No, I'm very dazzled by the glitter of Lanka. I've just come to see how Lanka is." So she says, "No, go away, go away." Hanuman still starts walking closer to her. Now what she does is she's holding a trishul, okay? A trishul it's a trident, right? And a pole down. So with that pole she's trying to shoo Hanuman. So she kind of drives it like this, Hanuman jumps and goes on the left side. She kind of drives it like this, Hanuman goes and stands on that side. Now she gets irritated. What she does is she bends down and is want to slap Hanuman. Okay, so she bends down and is about to slap Hanuman. Hanuman jumps, misses the slap, and then slaps her back with his left hand. So you can just imagine, even before she could hit Hanuman, Hanuman misses it, jumps, because a small monkey, right? And she's probably tall. So he jumps and then slaps on her face with his left hand. Specifically, okay, left hand. Lankini goes and falls some 20 feet away. She's all dazzled, her head is spinning and she doesn't even know what has happened. You know what happens, right? When you get hit on the ear, there's this noise that comes, you can't hear anything else. There's a noise that comes to you, right? She's completely deafened, she doesn't know what has hit her. She kind of composes herself, she gets up and then she is reminded. So it's like, this remote that we use, sometimes the battery goes out, it doesn't work. What do? We tap it, right? When a remote doesn't, it forgets what it's supposedly supposed to do, its own function. What do? We tap it so that it gets remembered of its function and then it starts functioning. That's what happens, right? Lankini, when she gets hit by the left hand of Hanuman, suddenly gets reminded of who she originally was. Lankini was an assistant with Brahma in the Brahmalok. She does some mistake and she gets cursed. In all Devaloka, people get cursed, they all come to earth, okay? And for them that is misery, that is a sharp, that is a curse. They all are upset, they don't want to go to Gulok. We are all so happy, I stay in US, I stay in New Jersey, I stay in Thane, Hiranandani, I stay in Kandivali, I stay in New Delhi. We are also happy with where we are staying. Those people they are very unhappy to come to Gulok. So saying, you have given me a curse, but you need to also give me a resolution. So it's called a Shapa Vimochan. So if you give me a shap, you should also ensure that I need to be having a solution to come out of it. So Brahma says there will come a time when there will be an extraordinary monkey who will come and slap you with his left hand, and then you'll remember who you are, and at that point of time you can come back. You will be taking birth in Lanka and you will be guarding that city. The day that monkey slaps you is the day, remember, that you have to come back, and that's the day when that city's bad days are going to start. Remember that and then come back. So she suddenly gets reminded, like the remote starts functioning, she suddenly gets reminded and she says, "Chalo, I am going." No resignation, no notice period, straight absconding. Lankini blesses Hanuman and then goes away to Brahmaloka. Ravana doesn't even know his immigration officer is gone. He'll come back to Brahmaloka. Now Hanuman, of course, climbs the wall. He's a monkey, right? He doesn't want a gate and all to be opened. He just climbs the wall and is now on the wall watching the entire city. Okay, Kambarama, and he spends quite a few time in just explaining how beautiful that city is. I can not even imagine to match myself that kind of poetic skills. I will just try and give you some examples of how beautiful Lanka city is. One of the critical examples that Kamba gives, okay, he says almost 95 to 98% of the people are asleep. It's 10:30, okay. By the time he's finished with these three, Mainaka and the two demons and Lankini, by the time everything happens, it's already 10:30 now in the night. And we are also proud that Mumbai is a city never sleeps. It is not good. Kamba actually tells a city should sleep. A city which sleeps, which means the city is devoid of all tension. Okay, they are all at a peace with themselves. The administration is very good. They are not bothered about the security. They are not bothered about what is going to happen tomorrow. They are all at ease and peace with themselves. Only such a city can sleep. So he goes on to give a list. He says the poor, the rich, the aged, the young, the able, the disabled, the men and the women, the children and the old, everybody is asleep. The thief is asleep. Okay, even the robber is asleep. People with guilt, people cannot sleep if you have guilt, if you have tension, if there are issues in mental issues, people will generally not get sleep, which means if these many people are sleeping, there is no guilt in anybody's mind, there's no problems at all. People are sleeping, happily sleeping and dozing off. He's saying such is the administration of Ravana. That is the example that Kamba Ramayana gives. Everybody is totally asleep. He's saying Hanuman is thinking of the glitter and the kind of fortress that Ravana has built. For a moment he thinks, is Rama even going to be able to defeat Ravana? He has to cross a huge ocean. For example, even if he crosses the ocean, he comes and stands on this side of Lanka. He kind of set up this, Ravana has built for himself is such a huge one. He suddenly taps his head and he says, no, let us prioritize on our work. You don't have to think of a problem which is going to come in the future. We need to first think of the problem that is in hand, right? Another moral that Hanuman teaches. Let's first prioritize. What is the problem in hand? First have to go and find Sita. Yes, it is going to be difficult to defeat Ravana, but there are multiple heads who are going to put it together to really think of a solution. You will have Rama, Lakshmana, Sugriva, Angada, Jambavan, all of them are going to be there to put that solution in place. And that anyway is not a problem as of now. The problem in hand is that I need to be able to find Sita, right? So he says, okay, okay, whatever happens in the future will happen. Let me now actually let me prioritize my issues. First, let me go and find Sita. Now, as he is moving, now he starts jumping from the wall, and now he starts moving up on the. How does monkey travel? They travel on the rooftops, right? People in Bangalore and when I used to stay in Bangalore, there used to be this whole bunch of monkeys that used to come every 10-15 days. They'll all go on treetops and rooftops. They'll never enter the road at all. They'll all keep on jumping. So that's what Hanuman is also doing. He's taken a form of a small monkey. He's now moving across. And he's dazzled. He's dazzled with the way the city has been built. Beautifully marked lanes, no potholes. Okay, for a change. Lanka didn't have potholes when Ravana was administrating. I don't know how it is now. But it didn't have potholes then. Beautiful footpaths, beautiful parks, ponds, recreational areas, theatre, entertainment areas, clearly demarcated, markets. All other areas are all no vendor zone. It's not like us where vendors are everybody. No vendor zone is marked. There's a no parking zone, so chariots can't park there. So all beautiful lighting, so all well lit roads. All houses are beautifully painted. No unwanted extensions, unauthorized, unapproved extensions. No clothes and undergarments which are drying outside. So you can imagine how beautiful Ravana's Lanka is. Ravana didn't build this Lanka. Ravana got this Lanka from Kuber. Vishwakarma actually built it for Kuber, his brother. Right? They have a common father. We had covered this. He usurps Lanka from him. Kuber had actually built Sone ki Lanka, golden Lanka. He usurps from him, but Ravana made it so beautiful that it was 10 times as beautiful as Vishwakarma had built for Kuber. Why? Because he was that good in administration. As he's traveling, he could hear, some of them who were awake, he could hear Vedic chants happening, in some houses there were maybe poetic recitals on praising Ravana. It's Ravana's city, right? Who else will they praise? So there's some praising Ravana, and then as he's traveling, now you have to understand, okay, now Hanuman has become a roadside Romeo. Okay? Why is he roadside Romeo? Because he's only looking at ladies. Okay? And why is he looking only at ladies? Because he is there to search a lady, right? He is there to search Sita. So he's not bothered, he's so focused, he's a peeping Tom. He's only peeping into the house and looking into ladies and just figuring out whether this could be Sita, whether that could be Sita. Now you have to understand Hanuman's predicament. He is in search of a lady he's not met, and he is in a town which is not known to him. He's in a geography that is not known to him. He is looking at a lady who he was never met. The only description that probably he has taken is from Lakshmana and Rama as to how Sita probably looks. Now Lakshmana is a problem because Lakshmana has never seen Sita, he's only seen the foot, right? He's never seen Sita at all. So he only described her feet. And Rama is a person who's utterly in love. People in love generally are so gaga that they, if one's wife is beautiful, say X, if they are in love with their wife, then they will always paint it as 10x. So Hanuman has to discount that also, right? Hanuman is saying, okay, Rama is in love, so he probably is exaggerated. That's what he feels. So it says, okay, this is a joke, okay? So in Krita Yuga, that is in Sati Yuga, husbands used to be only looking at their wives. Okay, and that is, they were so happy with their wives that they used to only look at their wives and they were the only beautiful lady that they knew in all their lives. By the time it was Dwapar Yuga, husbands thought that their wife is the most beautiful, which means they have combined with somebody else, which means they have started looking at somebody else. But they feel their wife is the most beautiful. Treta Yuga, husbands thought, my wife is very beautiful. Oh well, there are others also who are as beautiful. Okay, that is Treta Yuga. Kali Yuga, the whole world, all ladies are beautiful but my wife. That is what Kali Yuga is. I'm sorry, my aunts from Delhi and my own father-in-law is also watching this session. Okay, I hope they don't end up beating me up. That is just a joke. Okay, jokes apart. So what happens is, Rama is in love with his wife, right? So he feels probably he's exaggerated her beauty. She must be beautiful. But he would have anyway exaggerated, he's in distress, so he's talking of all exaggerated things, this is how beautiful she is. So I don't know whether I need to be looking at that or something else. So he's also mentally kind of discounting that and trying to search a lady who probably matches his imagination of how Sita probably might look. And now, going from mansion to mansion, he looks at girls, ladies sleeping, some are beautiful, some are okay, some are very ugly, there are demons also, right? So it's kind of making up his mind and he figures out nobody is extraordinarily beautiful, so maybe she's not here anywhere. Now he enters the actual palace. If Lanka city is X, the palace is 10x in its glitter, in its prosperity, the kind of security arrangements. Not a single guard is sleeping. That is such a new thing for all of us who live in gated societies. Security guard not sleeping is a boon, right? Ravana's Rajya, nobody slept. Okay, the guards were alert. They were doing their own duties. As he's traveling, he suddenly hears the name of Vishnu from one of the house. Now this is there in Ramcharitramanas. It is not there in the Moola Ramayana, that is of Valmiki. It is there in Ramcharitramanas and it's a very beautiful parva and hence I will end up covering it. As he's traveling, he sees a house with Vaishnava Lakshana, which means a house which has the beautification identical to a Vaishnava, a person who is a devotee of Vishnu. So it has got a lot of Vaishnava Lakshana, like Tulsi Vrindavan, like Shank and Chakra being, painted on the home. And when he goes and stands there, he could hear Vishnu's name being uttered, And then he goes and peeps and he realizes that is Vibhishana, that is Ravana's younger brother. We'll park this thought here because this visit that Hanuman does for Vibhishana turns out to be an important event when Vibhishana comes to do Sharanagati. At that point of time, we'll reconnect on this story. But otherwise, just remember that Hanuman has already seen Vibhishana and he's recognized, he's cross-marked that all full in Lanka, there is one place which is Vishnu Bhakta who stays there. Now he kind of goes ahead into the palace and he sees there's a huge person with a huge belly who's snoring away. He realizes that this is probably his younger brother Kumbhakarna. Then he goes further, then he sees a lot of strong men sleeping, lot of women sleeping, half of them clad, half of them not so well clad, half of them completely with their tongue out, which means they're intoxicated, completely zonked out. As he's traveling, then he enters a huge room where he finds a person, huge person, lot of muscles, symmetric body, flat stomach, puffed up chest, lot of scars on face and body, muscular hand, long feet, strong arms, big palms. And Hanuman is all awestruck. He's not even able to remove his gaze from him. 2, 3, 4 minutes, he's just watching with his open mouth. What am I seeing? He realizes that this is Ravana. Ravana is in all his pomp and gaiety, sleeping, peacefully sleeping. There he sees by his side the most beautiful lady that Hanuman would have ever seen till now in all his birth, Most beautiful lady, resplendent, extremely beautiful, full of ornaments and sleeping peacefully with a smile on her face. Hanuman is ecstatic. Hanuman realizes that he's seen Sita and he's jumping. Valmiki actually covers this. Okay, Valmiki says there are pillars in his room. He goes up and down the pillars. He goes up the one pillar, he jumps to the other pillar, he comes down this pillar. He goes to the third pillar, he jumps, again he comes down. He's all happy. He takes his tail and he starts kissing his tail. Now, tail is a very important and organ of pride for monkeys. Okay, so when they go extremely happy, it seems they kiss their own tail. Okay, so Valmiki said that he starts kissing his tail and he's so happy that he's seen Sita. And for a moment he suddenly realizes, he holds on to his thought and then he says, will Sita really be so happy with a smile and wear so many ornaments and sleep by the side of Hanuman? He taps his head and he says, oh my God, what am I doing? I need to come back to my senses. This can surely not be Sita at all. This has to be somebody else. Could be his wife or somebody else. But how can Sita be so callous? How can she come and sleep by the side of Ravana and be so happy about it? That is the first thought that comes to him. He taps his hand and he says, God, I think I'm getting tired. I'm hungry. Right? It's already now, by the time he's done all the search, it is almost 1:32. Okay? Midnight. He can smell some food. He enters his kitchen. Valmiki spends some time on what is being cooked in the kitchen. Okay? There are bulls, there are deers, there are dogs, there are cats, there are rabbits, there are pigs. He has not even left birds. There is peacock, there is parrot, there are even sparrows which have been cooked and kept in his kitchen. Hanuman goes nauseatic. He's saying, my God, where have I reached? He comes out of that kitchen and he says, fair enough. Probably food is not there. I need to first find Sita. So he starts searching. Now almost it is 3 o'clock and he's not got Sita at all. Right? He's completely dejected. He doesn't know what to do now. He's sitting on a tree and he's now thinking for himself. He's saying, should I now go back? I don't think I should go back. I should probably die here because I have not been successful in my errand at all. I have not been able to find Sita at all. I have seen inch and inch of Lanka. I couldn't find somebody who's as beautiful as Sita, the way Rama or Lakshmana described. Then what do I do now? Then he says, no, probably I can go back and tell them that I have not found Sita and I was unsuccessful in my errand. He says, what will happen? Rama will give away his life. Seeing Rama give away his life, Lakshmana will give away his life. Seeing Rama and Lakshmana give away life, being unsuccessful since Angada has led this, Sugriva will kill Angada, he will kill Jambavan, he will kill me. Having killed all of us, he will kill himself. The Vanaras will kill themselves. So he's saying all of this will happen only because I have become unsuccessful in my errand. Saying, no, I cannot allow myself to have any pessimistic thought. I will search one more time. So he does the entire palace search again. Now this time at a shorter duration. Because he knows where is what, right? Where there are only men sleeping, he doesn't have to enter that room, right? Where there are ugly women sleeping, he doesn't have to enter that particular room. So he goes on searching all the places, important place where he thought probably he was a little hurried in searching, or there were beautiful ladies and he missed. So he goes on searching and he again comes back to the same place and now completely dejected, he's still not been able to find Sita. Now he's kind of thinking hard. He's saying, what is it that I have not done right? There's some mistake that I have done, that I have not done right. Okay, some mistake that is beating my logic. Then he realizes that when he started his journey, and all along, he's been saying Jai Shri Ram, which means he's thinking about Rama. When he started his journey, he saw sun setting, almost setting, right? 5:30 is almost setting. He prays to his Guru. Surya is his Guru. He prays to his Guru. But one person whom is not prayed is a person whose darshan he wants to take. He wants to take Sita's darshan, right? And he's not prayed to her at all. He suddenly realizes that he is not prayed to the mother at all. He sits and he says, Mata, you have to be graceful and give me your darshan, otherwise there is no way I can ever find you. Hanuman shows, this is a message. We when go to search of God, it is not our effort that gets us God. It is God's grace that we have to have so that we get God. And it's very important. So we should always pray that although I'm making my efforts, Hanuman didn't say, okay, I'm going to pray for Sita, let her give darshan, I will sit in the beach and do aram. Whenever Sita wants to give me darshan, let her come and do darshan. He didn't do that. He took all the efforts to search. Human effort is important. At the same time, intervention from God also is important. So you have to pray to the very God, saying whom you are in search of, that you have to give me darshan. The moment he prays to Sita, there comes a thought, and that comes with a solution. He says, when Sampati saw that Sita is there in Lanka, what did he say? He said that Sita is sitting in a garden under a tree and she's crying. Now, these are very clearly his words, right? She's unhappy, she's sorrowful, she's sitting under a tree in a beautiful garden. That is what he says. Now, why did Hanuman, of course, remembers that, but why did Hanuman didn't go to the garden to search? Again, a logic, okay? So when you call, sometimes you call your wife, you call your husband, you call your friend, you know, hey, hi, where are you? Hey, he says, I'm in a shop, I'm in a garden with my son. Does that mean that that person is going to be there all day long and all night long? No, he's going to come back to his room, he's going to come back to his house, right? So he thought probably Sampati, when he saw at that moment Sita was in the garden. Nobody lives in a garden, right? He didn't know Sita is living in the garden. Logically, nobody lives in a garden. Somebody would be living in some room. So he thought that Sita is there because it's evening time, whatever. So she's just come there for a stroll and she probably would have gone back to her room. But now once he prays to Sita, he realizes, oh, is it possible that she probably is also living there itself? Is the thought that comes to his mind first. So, okay, now let me go in search of that beautiful garden. Probably that is, I have not seen a beautiful huge garden that Sampati told. Maybe that is one geographical area that I have missed. And now he goes in search of that particular garden. And there he finds a huge wall. It's a high walled garden. The moment he's on the wall, all his dejection, all his sorrow is suddenly vanished. He's feeling very pleasant and nice. Why? Because that is Ashokavana. Right? That is a name that Ravana is given. That garden is so beautiful, it seems. The moment you enter, all your shok, sorrow, goes away. That is why it's called as Ashokavana. Apparently, this place has been still maintained by Lanka government even today. And it is a very beautiful place. Ashokavana is still maintained by them. I don't know how much of Rama's heritage have we maintained in India. I'm sorry, I generally discourage myself from making any political statements in this forum. Even to build a temple at his birthplace, we've had to wait for some 180, 200 years, unfortunate, right? At Rama's birthplace. And Lanka has been maintaining this Ashokavana for ages, right? So that shows about the commitment of the governments that we have. So he enters Ashokavana and he's suddenly feeling very happy of having entered. It's a beautiful landscape, small hillocks, this small river kind of a thing flowing. There are small resort houses, tall trees, beautiful ponds, animals, birds. Very beautiful place, flowers, fruits, full of fruits. You know, all trees have got a lot of fruits. We'll come to all of that when Hanuman wants to eat something. There are a lot of fruits and a lot of flowers, and it's a very beautiful landscape. Hanuman is getting very happy about where he's reached. Now he starts searching. Okay. Now he starts searching for Sita. Whether is there anybody? He's skeptical. Why is skeptical? Because he's seen the entire Lanka, and now he's come to a garden where generally nobody is there at night times. Then he goes and sits on a particular tree called Shimshipa. Okay, that is the name of the tree, Shimshipa. Okay, it's a huge tree. He thought that would be a vantage point so that from there he can then see the entire geography of Ashokavana, and then we'll be able to see if there is any soul, anybody sitting anywhere. Goes and perches himself on Shimshipa. There he listens to a slight sob, somebody crying. Okay, and then he bends down and sees that there is a lady who's sitting down under the same tree where Hanuman is sitting and is unhappy and sorrowful and sobbing very lightly. I know I have 10 minutes, but I'm going to stop the story here because what is happening now is the most beautiful parva. If Rama met Sita is so beautiful, if Rama met Hanuman is so beautiful, Hanuman meeting Sita is also equally beautiful parva in Ramayana, and I will try and cover it in the next session. This is where Hanuman comes and meets Sita. Now it's a tricky situation, right? He has to first of all ensure himself that he is going to meet Sita. Okay. Second, he has to come and meet herself in a manner that Sita doesn't get startled, that Sita doesn't get afraid of, that Sita doesn't get threatened with. She's in the midst of demons, right? And demons are capable of taking different forms. Why not a monkey, right? So he has to now ensure that he comes and places himself in her presence in a manner that she doesn't get startled. 1, 2, she doesn't raise an alarm so that everybody is trying to come and hit him. And at the same time wins over her trust. So he is now finished almost 50% of his target. He's found Sita. The balance 50% is far more difficult. Why it's difficult? He has to convince Sita that he's come from Rama, right? He just can't throw the ring, immediately. He has to prove himself that he's come from Rama without startling her, and then present herself, make her composed, and then get into a discussion with her so that she also is assuaged that Rama is going to come. So he's going to have a big chunk of activity that is pending for him to do. This beautiful segment we will try and cover in the next parva. Next parva, probably we might even end up finishing off Sundarkand, because next Ismail they will meet Sita. Then of course we know what he does with the Ashokavana garden, right? He completely destroys it, right? Then he goes on to meet one of his Ravana's son, meets Ravana himself, burns Lanka, and then flies back as the entire journey after that. That is what we'll cover in the next segment. Today we'll end up seeing where Hanuman is probably feeling that he's seen Sita. At that level, we'll stop. Okay. Next is important where Hanuman meets Sita. If you all want to have any Naivedya done and offered after the session next week, you all can do that because it's an auspicious event. Needs to be marked with some Naivedya. With that, I end up today's session. Was I clear, audible, totally? No disturbances? Excellent. Any questions that you all have? Of course, it's a fairly simple, beautiful parva, so I'm sure you all also know it already. Anything else that you would want to know? Otherwise, we'll start with Hanuman Chalisa. Yeah? Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raja Nijamana Mukura Sudhari Varanaura Bhuvara Bimala Jasu Jodaya Kupalachari Buddhihin Tanu Janike Sumiro Pavan Kumar Bala Buddhi Vidya Devu Mohe Haro Klesha Vikar Jai Hanuman Jnana Gun Sagar Jai Kapishti Gulok Ucha Ramaduta Tulita Baladhama Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanama Mahabira Vikrama Kumati Nivara Sumatike Sangi Chanavarana Viraja Sudesa Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesa Hatha Dhwaja Viraje Kande Munja Janehu Shankara Suvana Kesari Nandana Teja Pratapa Mahajagabandhan Vidyavana Guni Ati Chatur Rama Kaj Karibeko Atu Prabhu Charitra Sunibe Ko Rasiya Rama Lakana Sita Man Basiya Sukshma Rupa Dhari Siya Dikhava Vikata Rupa Dhari Lanka Jarava Bhima Rupa Dhari Asura Samare Ramachandra Ke Kaj Samare Laye Sajivan Lakana Jiyaye Shri Raghuveer Har Shiur Laye Raghupati Kinhi Bahut Badhai Tum Mama Priya Bharat Hi Samabhai Sahas Badan Tumaro Yash Gave Asakai Shripati Kantha Lagave Dika Brahmadi Munisa Narada Sarada Sahita Ahisa Jama Kuber Dikpal Jahate Kavi Kovid Kahi Kahate Tum Upakara Sugriva Hi Kina Rama Milai Rajapad Dina Tumaro Mantra Vibhishana Mana Lankeshwara Bhai Sab Jag Jana Sahasra Yojan Par Bhanu Lilyo Tahi Madhur Phala Janu Prabhu Mutrika Meli Mukh Mahi Jagadilang De Acharaj Nahi काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे ते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख है तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज संहारो आपे तीनों लोक हाँकते कापे
भूत पिशाच निकट
नहीं
नहीं
आवे,
आवे।
महावीर जब नाम सुनावे, नासे रोग हरे सब पीड़ा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे, सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा।
तिनके काज सकल तुम साज,
और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सो ही अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवरपुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई।
और देवता चित्तन धरई,
हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटई मिटई सब पीड़ा, जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गुसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। ये शत बार पाठ करे कोई, छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होए सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरिचेरा, कीजे नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय।
के बोलो हनुमान की
जय।
Okay, I promised that I will cover one Hanuman shlok or prayer each of the Sundarakand. So I missed it doing it before Hanuman Chalisa. I thought I'll do it just immediately, just 5 minutes more. Bear with me. This is Hanuman Ashtakam and Hanuman Stuti. Shri Hanuman Ashtakam Atah Hanuman Ashtakam Atulita Baladhamam Namami Swarna Shailabhadeham Namami Dhanujavan Krishano Namami Jnani Nagraganyam Namami सकल गुणानिधानं नमामि वानराणामधीशं नमामि रघुपतिं प्रियं भक्तं नमामि वातजातं नमामि अंजनानंदनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपिशमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लंका भयंकरं मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूतमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि उल्लांघ्य सिंधोः सलिलं सलीलं यः शोकवह्निं जनकात्मजायः आदाय तेनैव ददः लङ्कां नमामि तं प्राञ्जलिः आञ्जनेयम् आञ्जनेयम् अतिपाटलाननं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीय विग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनीं भावयामि पवमाननन्दनं यत्र यत्र रघुनाथ कीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम् बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वम् अरोगता अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत् सर्वकल्याणधातारं सर्वापद्घनवारकम् अपार करुणामूर्तिम् आञ्जनेयं नमाम्यहम् अंजनागर्भसम्भूतं कुमारं ब्रह्मचारिणं दुष्टग्रहविनाशाय हनुमन्तम् उपास्महे श्रीरामदूत महाधीर रुद्रवीर्य समुद्भव अंजनागर्भसम्भूतं वायुपुत्र नमोऽस्तुते असाध्य साधक स्वामी न साध्यं तव किं वदा रामदूत कृपा सिंधो मत्कार्यं साधय प्रभो सर्वारिष्ट निवारकं शुभकरं पिंगाक्षं क्षापहं सीतान्वेषण तत्परं कपिवरं कोटिन्तु सूर्यप्रभं लंकाद्वीप भयंकरं सकलतं सुग्रीव सन्मानितं देवेन्द्रादि समस्त देव विनुतं काकुत्स्थदूतं भजे गोष्पदीकृतवार्षिं मशकीकृत राक्षसं रामायण महामालरत्नं वन्दे नीलात्मजं यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्रहीनं तु यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव वायुपुत्र नमोऽस्तुते विसर्गबिन्दुमात्राणि पदपादक्षराणि च न्यूनानि च अतिरिक्तानि क्षमस्व पवनात्मजा। जय हनुमंता की जय। थैंक यू।